Hi, how are you? I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, normally from the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, but for the next couple of months, coming to you from Pompano Beach, Florida, where it has been chilly by Florida standards, not by New York standards, but it has been chilly here. So I've got kind of a new setup here, different from what I've done in the past. And the only issue that I think I might be having is lighting and a little bit of shadowing I see going on. So I'll see if I can work on that, and something also to bring my tripod down a little bit lower, because it just seems like I'm looking up to talk to you, and that's not usually the case. So we'll see what we can do, okay? So, hey Cheryl, how are you? So I'm going to turn the camera down so we can get right going. I have some things to show you, and then we'll make 3 cards. All right, so hold on. Okay, so still just a little bit different, and my angle that I have to reach at it is a little bit different as well. Let's see if we're straight. And the problem is I always turn it the wrong way first to make it straighter, always, never fails. And then I have to wait for the delay so I can see if I'm doing it right. Okay, that's not bad, and maybe I just won't mess with it, and we'll leave it at that. Although it's a little tilted. Hang on one second. Oh, you might also hear voices. So I'm in a condominium, so there are people everywhere, and I'm also right in front of a window, and I don't know, people seem to talk pretty loud, like they don't realize they don't have to. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like everybody's always shouting around here. Okay, then I've got this cord that's normally not there. My tripod is always on the right of me, and right now it's on the left of me, which is, again, just a little bit different. There we go. Okay. So here we go. So the month is almost over. We have 2 more days left in January, but this is my host code. I didn't even bother bringing out my calendar because there are only 2 more months, and in February, which is in a couple of days, I'll put out a new calendar. But again, thank you to Cheryl and to Debbie for participating in what I call my pink boxes on the Daily Prompts calendar. So those people both got some prizes for participating. All right, so if you're going to place an order, I'm also using my iPad instead of my computer because there's just no place to put my computer here in front of me anyway, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so if you do place an order in the 2 days that are left in January, please make sure to use this host code. You can shop with me at this address right here. That's my Stampin' Up! Store. All right, and if your order is more than $150 or $150 or slightly over before tax and shipping, you will get some rewards. So in that case, do not use the host code, and I'll know that you placed the order, and I will be able to thank you anyway. Okay, so there we go. That's that. And then real quick, I just wanted to show you in the months of January and February. Let me see if I can put that this way. I think you'll be able to see it better. Okay, you can see already that it's just so pretty. Back it up a little bit. In the months of January and February, until the last day of February, we have what we call celebration. So what celebration means is that during those 2 months, there are some things that you can get for free with a purchase. All right, so this is not called a catalog, it's called a brochure. It's good January 7th through February 28th, and it's full of all kinds of items that you can get for free, either with a $60 purchase or a $120 purchase. So with a $60 purchase, you could pick one of the items in here that specifically say that they're for a $60 purchase. But if you were to make a $120 purchase, yes, you could get one of the items that says you need to make a $120 purchase, or you could get 2 of the items for $60, because 60 and 60 is 120, right? So there are some really nice things in here, and I just wanted to show you what I have gotten so far as a demonstrator, but it's the same deal for you as it is for me. I've gotten this paper pack, which is just gorgeous. So what you're seeing here is the back of the paper. This is the back side of this paper, okay? And then this is the back side of this paper. And this one is the back side of this paper. So it usually works out that what's on the front is kind of busier than what's on the back, okay? So this is the back side of this paper, which I love. It's just all beautiful daffodils. Then this is the back side of this paper. And, I lost one. And this is the back side of this paper. So it's a 12 by 12 paperback. You get 2 each of 6 designs. And this one is called Bloom Impressions, okay? So that I got for free with a $60 purchase. I chose, I don't think I did anything that was a $120 purchase because I like to get more. So I also got this 6 by 6 paper pack that is called Fruit Salad. That makes perfect sense, and it's just adorable. I think I did show it on a previous video, so I don't want to take the time to show all of it, but it's got basically busy fruit patterns on one side, and then the other side, like the one I just showed you, is a little bit more laid back. All right, and then some busy fruit patterns, and then something a little bit more laid back, and so on. All right, so and we are going to use this tonight for one of our cards. I also got, and this is funny because I'm sure this has happened to all of you, where you have a stamp set that you see in the catalog and you're like, I don't know, it doesn't do anything for me, I don't think I need it, it's cute, but I don't think I need it. And then maybe you watch a video, maybe you watch one of my videos and you see people making things with that, and all of a sudden it's like, that's really cute. So that was me with the Friendly Seagulls stamp set. It's a standalone stamp set, doesn't have any dies or any punches or anything like that. And I thought, they're seagulls. Seagulls eating french fries? Well, seagulls will eat anything. But then when I saw some cards being made with it, I kind of had to have it. So we're not using that tonight, but we will get to it. Then, because everybody likes bling, I got this, which is called the Purple Adhesive Backed Sequins. And even this one here kind of reminds me of like an opal. A light colored opal, so there is some purple in there, but I see some green and some other colors as well. And then this is kind of a pinkish purple. This is definitely more pink if you ask me, and this is more purple. And the nice thing about the sequins is that they're flat, so they're great for mailing. So I got that for free with a $60 purchase. I got this Documenting the Day, which part of it is, intended to be for scrapbooking for sure, because the things are much bigger. So you would put what a wonderful day, documenting the day, oh what a day, one fine day, you get it, okay? And I just thought this would be nice even for certain cards, because sometimes I really like a bold sentiment on a card, so I can use this for scrapbooking, but I can certainly use it for cards as well. And then the third thing I got with a $60 purchase is this Starstruck embossing folder. So this Starstruck embossing folder is not a 3D folder. So if you're familiar with our folders, we have what they call regular and what they call 3D. So the 3D folders are much thicker. You can feel it the minute you pick them up. They're heavier, they're thicker, and they make a deeper impression. Whereas this one doesn't make as deep an impression, but believe me, you can still see it, and we'll be using this on one of the cards that we're doing tonight as well. So I just wanted to share that with you, tell you a little bit about Celebration so that you understand what it is. So Celebration is definitely, if you're a new person to me, and you're thinking maybe you'd like to purchase a couple of things, you don't want to like jump right in and spend a fortune, but you want to purchase a couple of things, even with a $60 purchase, you can get something for free. The other thing that I feel like I have to mention is that during Celebration is one of the times during the year when Stampin' Up! Has a special joining offer. So if you would like to become a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, whether it is just for the discount yourself, we call those discount shoppers, whether you think maybe you'll have some parties at your house with friends or family coming over, you can do that too. They offer some special things. So right now you have 2 options. The first option when you join is to get this stamp set called Handmade Designs. Let me see if I can hold that up a little bit higher. Every time I do that, I hold it up in the wrong place. Let's see. Well, this way a little bit. Yes, this way. I was going the wrong direction. There we go. Okay, so that stamp set called Handmade Designs, and you can get I want to make sure, is it both of them? You can get the Stampin' Right markers, brights, neutrals, regals, or subtles. I think you have to choose. I don't think you get all of them. You get two. You get your choice of 2 marker sets. The Stampin' Right markers are different from our alcohol markers in that you can use the Stampin' Right markers to color on a stamp and then stamp, so that you can make a stamp multiple colors, which you can't do otherwise. And you cannot use the alcohol markers on your stamps. It will damage the stamps. So that's option 1. You get two of these and you get the stamp set. Or option 2 is just to get an additional $30 in free products, which means you just decide what you want. Not just from this catalog, but from the annual catalog or the spring mini. You get your choices, all right? So just wanted to fill you in on that, and now we'll get down to business as soon as I throw everything on the floor. Okay. So our first card is probably actually the most intricate of the cards. We're going to use some ribbon. We're going to use the, what's it called? The silver and white sheer ribbon. We'll be using that. We will be using Versamark, which is our embossing ink, or it's also known as a watermark ink. We will be using some white embossing powder. We will be using Bubble Bath ink. That's a very pretty pale pink. Well, it's not too pale. Smoky Slate, which is a lighter gray. We'll be using some of the stamps from the set that I'm going to show you in just a minute. We'll be using our embossing buddy, and I'll explain how that works in just a minute as well. Okay, and then here I've got some things that we're going to need as well. I did forget to mention, in case you didn't notice, underneath what I'm working on tonight is our glass mat. What's it called? Glass Mat Studio, and it comes with some things that I forgot to bring out, so they're off someplace here. I'm still sort of unpacking craft supplies and finding places for everything. So when I said that we were going to be taking a look at one of my favorite, or really my all-time favorite, new punch bundle, this is what I was referring to. So the punch bundle is this stamp, Hugs for Love, with this punch, which is called the To The Point punch. I think I'm saying that right. Hang on, let me check my cheat sheet. Where is it? Where is it? Did I lose it already? Oh no, here it is. So my printer here is acting up a little bit because the ink got dried out from being left. So I ran a thing to clean out the print heads, but it's still printing a little wonky. So yeah, so this is the bundle right here. So the bundle itself, I want to make sure I'm really looking at that right, is on page 54 of the mini catalog, and it is $38.50 for that stamp set and the punch. If you were to buy it separately, the stamp set would be $20 and the punch would be $23. And so you're saving 10% by buying it as a bundle, okay? You don't have to buy it as a bundle, but I'm going to explain to you why you really should. In my memory, I think it's been a while since Stampin' Up! Has come up with a label punch that had a stamp set like this, where there were multiple images that could be punched out by the label punch. But wait, there's more. Because the other thing that they also came out with was this stamp set called Bright Borders. Now this is not part of the bundle, so Bright Borders would be something you would have to buy separately. And that stamp set costs, hang on, I'm looking, $20, okay? But this stamp set has 1, 2, 3 different images that can be punched out with this punch. And this one has 2, so if you were to get both stamp sets, you would have 5 choices of things to punch out with this, plus just making regular labels where you don't use any of these things, all right? This one has a Valentine sentiment, but the rest could absolutely be used for anything. You and I make the best team. That could be for a friend or a husband or a wife or whoever. Sending you a big hug could be for a grandchild or a friend or, again, whoever. You make me smile, lots of hugs and kisses. So it definitely is not strictly a Valentine set, other than the one sentiment and some hearts. And hearts can be used any time of year. This one has some sentiments that I at least interpreted as great for a wedding card. Yay, so happy for you. The future is bright. Could also be graduation, though. Could be engagement. From me to you, little flowers, a thank you, and a little border thing here that I almost didn't see that one. So I'm glad I noticed that. So this is what we're going to be playing with tonight. All right, so the first card I decided was going to be a wedding card because I need a wedding card. All right, so if you're not familiar with our punches, they're like a brick. They're extremely heavy. They're very, very well made, and that's why they're a little bit more expensive than the stamp sets, because they just take a little bit more technology. They have a lock on the bottom that you slide to open the punch, and there are, I don't know if you can see that in here, or maybe you don't care, but it's interesting to me. There are, there's a delay, so I can't tell if you're seeing it yet, or how to hold it for you to see it better. There are springs inside, and there's just this whole mechanism, this is all very, very heavy, that allows you to punch. So I know some people have used these punches in my classes, but I don't know if anybody's ever really paid attention to how they're made, and they're pretty amazing. So I've got a scrap of the Bubble Bath ink, and I have a basic white card base, and then another piece of basic white, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is stamp and cut this, or stamp and punch this, I guess I should say. So I'm going to use, I think I got some of the wrong things out. Hang on. Oh no, I didn't. I just missed one. All right, which one do I want to use? I don't know how much it matters. All right, so I'm taking one of these. All right, and I'm going to do kind of a tone-on-tone stamping with this. So I'm going to use Bubble Bath ink on Bubble Bath paper. That's what tone-on-tone means, okay? Monochromatic, you call it whatever you want. So, let's see, I don't know, it doesn't really matter which way I hold it. I'm being silly. So I'm inking it up. And, oh, wait. Somebody should have said something. What did I do with it? So because we're using photopolymer stamps, we need a cushion, something with a cushion. And here it is. I said, I know I got one out. But you know, in a pinch, if you don't have this, you could even take a magazine. I've done that before. So this is just a piece of craft foam. And what Stampin' Up! Uses most of the time for this is they use their piercing mat, which they're continuing to sell even though they're no longer selling actual piercing products. But they used to sell them, where you did what's called paper piercing. All right, so I'm going to stamp on that. I'm going to let that ink soak in a minute because it is a light color, just like the paper, so I want it to be visible. That came out really well. Very happy with that. Okay, got to put that in some place where I won't put anything on top of it. Then I can put this aside, and then I can get out our punch and show you how that works. So here's the punch, and I'm just going to, you see it's got these little notches on either side. I assume that's what they call the point. So that's why you've got to put this in sideways, and I'm realizing it's not going to work that way. And so what I may have to do, not a big deal at all, is just cut away some of this so that I can get that in as close as I want to get it. So I'm just going to take a little snip off of that side, and now I should have no problems at all. Okay, so I got to trim off a little bit more. I like to leave myself something to hang on to though, so some people might just cut this all the way around, and then the problem is you don't necessarily have enough to hang on to. So that's why I like to leave a piece on there even if I have to do some trimming. So we're going to line this up, and we're going to be very careful to not just look at the right, not just look at the left or the top or the bottom, but kind of look at all of it. Because when I move the bottom, it may change the way the top moves and so on. And you want your border around this to be as even as possible. Again, chances are nobody's going to notice it but you want to try to get it as even as possible. And I'm having a hard time, and I'm not sure why. Oh, now I know why. Because I need to snip off another little bit. Okay, so that was keeping me from getting where I needed to get. Alright, I know some people just put it in and slam, they do it and it comes out right. It just doesn't always work for me, so I like to take a minute or two. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes I think I just move it too much and then I kind of mess it up. Alright, I'm going to say that that's good. And punch. Don't squeeze gently, punch kind of fast, okay? because when you do that, you get a cleaner punch. If you squeeze gently, which seems like a nice thing to do, when you squeeze gently, sometimes you end up kind of shredding, tearing the paper a little bit. Maybe shredding's not the right word, but you don't get a nice even cut. Okay, so I've got that now, and now what I want to do is stamp on this, and I want to use the sentiment. I want these on the side. I want to use the sentiment. And it really could go either way. So I had mentioned those two stamps that I said would be good for wedding. So you've got yay, so happy for you. And then you've also got the future is bright. It honestly doesn't matter, I don't think, which one you make the innie and which one you make the outie. So we're going to use the Versamark though. I forgot to bring my Versamark re-inker with me, however. So I'm hoping that I don't have to, I hate to place an order for just one item or two because the shipping is kind of prohibitive for just buying a couple of things. So I'm really going to just ink it up good. You will not be able to see any ink on the stamp because it's totally clear. It's a sticky, slow drying ink. And even when I stamp it here on this, you're really probably not going to be able to see it. All right, I can see it. I doubt that you can see it. And that's okay. It's there. It really is. This really does need re-inking though, so I'm either going to have to not do a lot of embossing, or I'm going to have to get some more ink. Okay, so I'm going to put that down on here because, where did it go? Okay, here it is. Because embossing powder is kind of like crazy stuff. It gets all over. You don't want to have a fan on when you're using this. I do have the ceiling fan up and it's on low. You certainly don't want to have like a regular fan sitting on your desktop while you're doing this because it would just be bad. It would blow all over the place, and it's kind of like a fine dust. I want to be careful not to touch it. I forgot to use my embossing buddy, even though I have it right here on the table with me. So the embossing buddy is a little pouch that has some kind of powdery substance in it that keeps the, like if you had oil on your hands, like maybe you put lotion on a little while ago and you thought you had most of it soaked in but it wasn't, or you ate a potato chip, got a little grease on your hands or whatever, even static. It keeps the embossing powder from sticking where you don't want it to stick. And I forgot to use it, but it looks okay. I think I'm safe. It's fairly humid here in Florida, so that helps. At home, when you get that whole static thing going on in the wintertime, when you start to turn on the heat, it can really be kind of crazy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the embossing tool. And I'm going to try and hold this up so you can see it, because if you've never seen this, it's magical. I want to make sure I'm in the right spot so you can see it. Okay, and then I'm going to hold this. Try not to burn my fingers because that hurts. And I'm going to go, yeah, that hurts. I do have tweezers. And I'm going to keep going over it gently, but I want to keep it moving too. You can also go from behind a little bit. And, oh, hang on, I really want you to see this, if you can. So right now, half of it is done and half of it isn't. Okay, gotta come a little bit more this way. Okay. I'm definitely like burning myself, so give me a second here to get my tweezers. Hang on, hold please. I don't think it's totally done yet. I know, to me it's just magical when you actually see it happening, but I don't know if you're gonna get to see it or not. So you see how it's changing from clear to white? After it does that, you just want to give it a quick go over to make sure you hit all of it, but you don't want to go too much over it, because if you do, you can actually burn it, and that's not good. Okay. So there you go, and that is, to me, is kind of magical. I can't help it, it's kind of magical. All right, so we've got this now. And now we're going to do something else kind of fun. This is the embossing buddy, by the way, and it comes with our embossing Embossing Extras kit, Embossing Essentials kit, something like that. All right, and it's just a little kind of a felt pouch, and it's filled with, you know, something like talcum powder, cornstarch. I don't know exactly what it is. There's probably some, you know, secret formula. But anyway, so what I want to do is I want to have a little bit of a background on here, but I needed to do that first, and I'll show you why. So I've got the smoky slate because I personally think that pink and gray look really nice together. Okay, I just really do think that pink and gray look nice together. So I've got the, where did it go? Oh, it's right in front of me. Oh my gosh. And then this stamp, which has some little flowers on it, little clusters of flowers. Okay. Gosh, there's such a delay. All right, so what I want to do is I want to have this maybe here. Not smack in the middle, but not too far down or too far up. So I want to have it like maybe, you know, a third of the way up or whatever. But because I'm not sure where I want to stamp, I'm going to kind of put this here first. I'm going to ink this up. Oh, geez, Louise, I'm going to get my pad. I'm going to ink this up, and then I'm going to kind of move that out of the way. And, okay, that's kind of what I wanted to do. Then I'm going to come in here and do it again. And I'm like, okay, I like that. Now we'll see if I can stamp left-handed. Some days I can barely stamp right-handed, so we'll see how this goes. Okay. And that wasn't so good, was it? Because you can't even see it. So that's okay, because you can't see it. So I'm just going to come further out in that same spot. And now we're going to hide the kind of nasty part that I did where I went over it twice. That's fine. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted a little something, something going through there. But now let me show you, because remember I said we were going to use the embossing folder? So that's where the Wait There's More comes out. So after I'm done stamping that on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same piece of paper, this piece of paper, and I'm going to run it through the embossing folder, and I'm going to get that. What do you think of that? Okay, so we're going to get that. Isn't that beautiful? It is beautiful. So now we're going to take the card base, the white card base, and the fact that this is really like mostly white, and maybe I chose bubble bath because maybe that was the color theme in the wedding, maybe the bridesmaids' dresses were this color, whatever. I'm going to glue this onto the card base, so it's kind of white on white, but the gray makes it stand out a little bit more, and certainly the embossing does. When you have embossed, you know, I'm normally very cheesy, very cheap with the glue, not because I'm cheap, but because you don't need a lot, and when you use too much, you make a mess. However, when you've embossed something, you have my permission to use a little bit more, because some of the glue is going to sink down into the embossing, and it's not all going to grab like we want it to. So you have my permission to use a little bit more glue when you're using an embossed piece. Okay, and then I like to put just a little dot in each corner because I personally just hate it when corners start coming up. That really bugs me. So, make sure we've got this right. Got that going in the right direction because there's more open space on top, which is what I wanted. And you've probably heard me say this before, but all of this talking that I'm doing right now to explain this to you, I'd be doing probably 80% of this if I were alone in my craft room. I'd say, okay, make sure it's this way, make sure the card opens the right way, because if I don't talk myself through it, then I make those mistakes that just annoy me. Now I'm going to take some dimensionals, and wait, I'm also going to take this ribbon. So this, like I said, is the silver satin ribbon, very pretty ribbon. And I'm going to take my ribbon shears and I'm going to cut a piece of that off. And I think that's all I need, but we'll see. And then I'm just going to use that little pin to put that in there so it doesn't get lost. Okay, I'm going to take this ribbon and I'm just going to do, I kind of call this the Cancer ribbon thing. All right, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to have the ribbon, let's say I want it like this. And then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to put some of these dimensionals so that they're holding down the ribbon for me. Sometimes I use a piece of tape, and that's fine too. But this just helps keep that ribbon in place. And then I'm going to take some others and just put them around here and there so that the whole thing stays in place. One there. I kind of meant to get a piece of that ribbon under that. There we go. And then I can safely let go of that now, and maybe I'll put another one right here. Okay. Get them all off? I think I did. Okay, so now I can put that here, and I would be best if I stood this up. I kind of wish now that this was a little bit more, hang on, I'm going to readjust because I want it to be more kind of like at an angle on a diagonal. I also don't want it to hang off the edge of the card. That would be bad. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to put that on so that I can see some of that gray flowers, some of the gray flowers, but I don't necessarily need to see a lot. I might have been okay with seeing a little bit more over here, but I'm okay with it this way too. I'm going to trim that because it's hanging off a little and we want it to be able to fit into the envelope. All right, that might be a bit of a problem too, but we'll pretend we don't see that for now, okay? Okay. And then on the inside, probably in the gray granite ink, now I could stamp the future is bright. I don't want to emboss that because that would be embossing white on white and you wouldn't see it. So we're just going to stamp that in the gray granite on the inside. And this is the, not that it's complicated, but it's the most complicated of the 3 cards we're going to make tonight. So we started with that. Right, and then I feel like that's crooked. And it may still be crooked. A little bit, but that's not terrible. I can take it when it's not terrible. And there is a very simple looking card. You know, yes, there were several moving parts that we had to do, but it was basically a simple looking card. And here's the one that I made as a sample. And I did that one just a little bit differently because I wasn't paying, oh, I forgot to tell you. This would be important to know. What I decided to do is what we call case the catalog. All right, which is absolutely allowable. So let me tell you a little bit about what casing means. I found this page like 10 times today, and now I can't find it. There we go. All right, so CASE, C-A-S-E, stands for copy and share everything. And that's kind of a thing among Stampin' Up! Demonstrators and Stampin' Up! Themselves, that if I put one of the pictures of one of my cards online, I don't mind if you copy it, just give me a little credit for it maybe, you know. So if you're doing a video, you might say, well, I saw, you know, Roberta Calacino did this. But the other thing that the initials mean, instead of copy and share everything, are copy and creatively edit. So in the catalog, they use what looks like Calypso Coral, and they put some gems on there. They look like some silver gems. And I opted not to do that. They also put some cutouts, which might be really hard to see, that were cut out in white of some leaves from another set. They used that, okay? And I didn't use that. I used the ribbon. So I copied it, but I sort of made it my own. I used the bubble bath instead. I used the ribbon instead. They used an embossing folder, but I think they used like the quilting embossing folder or something like that. I used a different one. So, and on my sample, I went ahead, like I said, and I put some stamped off images here. That means that I stamped on a scrap piece of paper and then stamped so it was a little bit lighter. And then I kind of went all the way around, whereas here I chose to make it a little bit simpler. So either way, and here I put the future is bright on the inside, here I put it on the outside, so I kind of flip-flop that. All right, all kinds of things you could do. You could take a sponge or a blending brush and you could add a little bit of color to the embossing and make the flowers a little bit pink, or make some of them pink and some gray. There's just all kinds of things that you can do, and I love in my classes when I see people just making something their own and using their own imagination. That is great. That's what we're looking for. As teachers or demonstrators, that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so that is that card. Let me put this stuff away now. I don't need the embossing buddy, I don't need the Versamark, and I don't need those color inks anymore. And I don't, well, I might need one of those stamps, I'm not sure, so I'll leave those out. All right, the next one is also cased from the catalog, but it's cased in a slightly different spot. It is cased from the other stamp set, the one that's in the bundle. So I decided to case this card here. But again, wait, is that the one? Yes. But again, I'm going to change it up just a little bit to make it my own, okay? So that's the card I'm casing, and you'll see what I do to make it more my own. And that one is from the Hugs for Love, which is part of the bundle with the punch. And for my color palette, instead of going quite as pastel as they did, I chose Summer Splash, Pretty in Pink, and Petunia Pop, which are the new in colors for 2024-2026. So they are the newest in colors. So they will not retire until 2026. So I have a white card base. And I've got this. Now, I had a couple of different ideas for making this a little bit different. Let me see. One thought that I had was to not leave the base totally plain white, like it is in the sample, in the catalog, but to take my Pretty in Pink, which is a pretty light color, but I may want to grab a piece of scrap paper so that I can lighten it up even more. It's amazing to me how things just disappear from this table from right in front of me. Okay, so I'm just going to get another piece of scrap paper. All right, and I have a piece of scrap paper like this on the side when I'm going to do what's called stamping off. So this is the little stamp with the little hearts in it, and instead of stamping it right on here, I want to look at it first and see. Yeah, I don't even want it that dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink it up. I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp on there. And it's going to be very light, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I lose my track of what I'm doing, and I forget to stamp off. And then I end up with one really dark one anyway, and you know, like that time, I just double did it, so to speak. Okay, and I'm perfectly okay with it being really, really light because I don't want it to be the focal point. I don't want it to jump out at anybody. And some of what I'm doing here is going to get covered up anyway. I already know that. So I'm not too worried about it being too much because some of it you're just never going to even see. And if I wanted to, I could take this and put it here, and so now I could actually stamp a little bit off. Oh, see, and I forgot to stamp off on that one. Not a big deal. All right, so let's just see what that's going to look like. I might want to do more, I might decide not to do more. So what happens is that this is going to go on here kind of like that. So I'm seeing some of it, but I'm actually ending up covering up a lot of what's on this side. So I think what I'm going to do is bring this back in and get this stamp again. And I'm just going to stamp, oh, forgot to stamp off, stamp some of these closer to the edge so that we actually will see them. Yeah. Almost stamped off on the wrong thing. All right, let's see if that looks better. And you might choose not to do that at all. I just thought that might be kind of cute and interesting. Okay, I like that. Again, you might like the all-white look. That's okay too. So now I'm going to take this one, and now we're going to take a look at the colors. So do I want... I don't think I want the Pretty in Pink at all anymore. I think I'm going to close that up and get it out of my way. And then for the larger stamp, we've got the large stamp, we've got a smaller stamp that has some lines on it, and then we've got our sentiment. Oh, and we've got our Baker's Twine Essential Pack. Maybe I should put everything out in front of me so I can't forget it. So for the larger stamp, I'm going to use the Summer Splash. One of the disadvantages of the glass mat, I'm finding, is that it's a little noisy. Okay. So definitely much, much brighter than what they were showing there. And for some of them, I'm going to stamp it off the edge so you're really only seeing part of it. And because this color is so bright, I don't want to overdo it and have too many of them. I don't want it to be overwhelming, especially since it's a smaller piece of paper. Okay. Then, I'm going to leave that out because I think I'm going to use that again, and I'll show you how in a minute. Okay. I lied when I said I wasn't going to use the Pretty in Pink anymore, because I am. Yes, I definitely am. Alright, so this stamp, you'll see it when I stamp it, has stripes in it. I hope you can see that. I definitely have to lower this this thing, tripod. Oh, don't stamp the green, that would be bad, bad, bad. And then I'm going to slide that over, but I'm not sure that I'm done with it or not. Nope, hang on. Putting that aside, bringing back the Summer Splash, and I've got to clean this off. And if I were my chamois, I would be way over here on my left. Okay. At my desk at home, everything that I'm hiding for the most part is on my right, because it's a gate leg table, so there's a big leg in the middle. So I have to sit either to the left or the right. There's more room on the right. So it's very different. Okay, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to stamp using the Summer Splash, but I'm going to stamp off because I want it to be a lighter version of the Summer Splash, just like we did with the background being a lighter version of the pink. Alright, so every time I'm going to stamp off. And again, some of this will get hidden. We won't see it, and that's perfectly okay. Alright, I think that's going to be good. Let me set that aside and close that up so I don't accidentally do something I didn't want to do. And then I think I'm going to come back to this and maybe do a couple more of these. I want to make sure they're not all going in the same direction, so there's one there. I almost feel like that's enough. Maybe one just kind of coming off the edge there. And I think that's good. So then the reason I brought in the Petunia Pop, oh, I just realized I need a scrap. Okay, that should work. So set that aside for a second. And this time, even though the sample was not a Valentine's card, I decided why not make this one a Valentine's card. Whoops. When I'm down here in Florida, usually, actually I think last year it was in January, but I was late getting here this year. So like the first week in February, we have a Valentine's card making, I won't even call it a class necessarily. It's just for fun for the folks who live here. Alright, so I'm going to stamp that, ink it up rather. and then stamp that on here. And I'm pressing it and letting it sit a minute because I could see some bubbles in the stamp. And when you press it and hold it, it lets the bubbles sort of ooze out and you get a better image. Not sure if that made any sense at all, but we'll see. All right, so now I'm going to grab my little mini cutter. And of course I piled things on top of it. And as they all come crashing down. And I'm just going to make a little banner. So I wanted the sentiment here to really be kind of a bigger, a bolder color, not a bigger color, a bolder color. That looks very crooked, so my edge must not have been straight to begin with. Let's see. Just going to hack some of that off and get it out of the way. And then I'm going to go back in and try to cut that. This cutter, by the way, unfortunately is not available, but there are several very much like it on Amazon that are in like the $20 range, and they're really nice. They do a good job cutting, and this was something that was actually offered as a joining offer 1 year for people who joined Stampin' Up. All right, now I have to keep that straight. So I'm using the lines on the cutter to keep that straight instead of using the edges to keep it straight. I want to make this pretty close to the words. I think I want that even closer. So some of this stuff gets a little fiddly, you know, but again, you don't have to be quite that fussy. And some people will do this with their scissors. I just don't like to chance it because sometimes I don't cut on a straight line very well. It's kind of embarrassing to admit, but it is true. Okay, let's close that up before I put something in it by mistake. That would be bad. And then I could leave this just like it is, or I could do just a shallow flagging to make it like a banner. That's cute. So now I can put this on top of this. I'm very sorry, but I cannot see. When I'm on my iPad, I have a hard time seeing comments. And if I try to make it smaller, then sometimes I make it go away, and that's really not good. Yeah, it's not showing me how to make it smaller this time. All right, so we're going to put this on here, and this we're going to just glue down. All right, and just going to have to give it a little whatever. So what I do with these fine tip glue bottles, the glue that I'm using, by the way, is our Tombow Mono liquid glue. I've just put it in these bottles because we get a lot less waste and a lot less mess with these bottles. But because they are so narrow, they clog up kind of quickly. So I just put a little band of Designer Series paper around it and a piece of tape, and I just keep one of these pins stored with every single bottle of glue so that everybody's got one while they're working in case they need it. All right, so this is going to be kind of off-centered here. You could also have embossed the front of the card instead of putting some ink on it. You could have done some embossing. I could have done some embossing. This little thing that I do just helps me to push a section of the card over if I didn't think it was straight enough, and I didn't. And it might still not be straight enough because I pressed it down pretty good. And then this, I'm just going to pop up with dimensionals. And it's still a pretty basic card. Well, I really only wanted 2, but I'll take 3. I have almost no fingernails. This is just a public service announcement. I went to a wedding, and a few days before the wedding, I went to one of those nail places, and I had the gel nails put on. I had never had gel nails done before. Years ago, I had the acrylics, and they were supposed to be not good for your nails, and they really weren't. So because I heard the gel nails were better, I went with those. Okay, this is why I take the things out that I'm going to use, because they did use the baker's twine in the sample, and I kind of like that. So I'm going to pull out the white baker's twine, which of course is near the bottom. And I'm going to just take a little bit of it, and I don't know how much I really want. Sometimes we just do a thing where you kind of wrap it around your hand a little bit, like that. And then you cut it, and you make sure that the little flippy ends aren't necessarily visible. And you can do that by just sort of zhuzhing this a little bit and making it so that all the loops are a slightly different size. And sometimes they curl, and that's kind of annoying. I don't like it when it curls. I think that might work. Okay, and since I put that extra one on there that I didn't think I wanted, I don't know. Okay, that'll work, maybe. No, I think I just want one of these longer pieces from the side to go over that. What was I saying? So I got the gel nails, and my nails looked beautiful for the wedding. I was very happy with how they looked. And about 3 weeks after getting home, because I really didn't want to get them filled and do them again, I had them removed. And not good. It ripped layers of my nails off, and now they're just breaking, and they're not growing, and it's just bad. So in answer to the question, are gel nails better for your nails than acrylic nails? My answer would have to be a big fat no, because my nails are more damaged after removing those than they ever were after removing the acrylic nails. So, was not a happy customer, not at all. Could not recommend it. But if you've had a better experience, let me know, because right now I'm just turned off to the whole thing. All right, so there we go. So if we look at the sample card in the mini catalog, hang on, okay. The sample card in the mini catalog is very pastel-y, very pretty. It has nothing in the back, and as far as I can tell, that's not embossed either. So mine's a little bit busier. But I like it. But you don't have to like it, and you don't have to do it that way. But that was just me showing you 2 different ways of doing it and 2 different outcomes. Okay? So that's that. And that was card number 2. Right? And I'm just going to clean off these stamps because they're really dirty, and if I accidentally touch them with my hands or with a card, I'm going to be unhappy. Very unhappy. There's nothing worse than putting your time into making a whole card and then accidentally sticking it in an ink pad or accidentally touching it with inky fingers. It's just very annoying. It will just make you all kinds of mad at yourself. And we don't want that. Okay. So that one can go back down on the floor now. And then card number 3, I think, is the easiest. I think. So for card number 3, I have a sample that I won't show you until after we're done, because again, I wanted to show you how different they are. And this sample, or this card, is also cased from the catalog. So I am casing this card here that says, sending you a big hug, and has some hearts, and it has a crumb cake base and a some balmy blue paper. I didn't use that paper either. I used a different paper. I didn't use those colors, so you'll see what I did. I just basically did it totally differently. And I have no ink out here. So that's interesting. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay. Well, we're going to have to get some ink, aren't we? Yes, we are. We're definitely going to have to get some ink. And okay, I've got the DSP, so already you can see a difference because I am going to be using a Granny Apple Gleam base, which is certainly very different from Crumb Cake. And that fruit salad paper I'm going to be using. And then I will have a white piece to go inside on the lining. So we're not using this as a, what am I trying to say? We're not using this as a, I have no words, as a card layer. What I'm going to do with this is the same thing that you may or may not have noticed with the other paper, is that I am just going to cut this up and make it, I'm not sure if it really matters which way I go or not, but I'm thinking it through, like maybe it does. So I'm going to cut out 3 of these. I hope I can get 3 of these out of this. All right, so you know what? If I can't get 3 of those out of that, let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get 2 whole ones, and I'm going to get a partial one where I have, let me see how I want to do this. I'm thinking it through and I know what I have in mind. Okay, so I'm going to get a partial one where I'm short a little bit. And this was 6x6 paper, so I didn't have to do this. I don't remember now why I cut it that way, but I did. Probably just me not thinking. That happens sometimes. And that's a scrap that we're going to need for the inside. Okay, so I've got that done. And then I'm going to have to do some stamping on here. Okay, and I know I had in mind what I wanted for colors. So the colors in this paper, depending on which piece you've picked, are Daffodil Delight, Real Red, Granny Apple Green, what's it called? Pumpkin Pie. I think there's some Garden Green in here. And I'm not sure that's some kind of a brown, but I'm not sure which brown. Maybe Pecan Pie? I'm not sure. But anyway, I wanted to go with brighter colors. So, what did I decide? And why didn't I get it out? Hang on, my ink pads are smack in front of me. That's the one nice thing about this setup, is that they're not off to the side. They are right in front of me on the table. Okay, Daffodil Delight, I think I wanted. Yes, Daffodil Delight. Oh, that might be kind of light. Let me just think this through. Daffodil Delight. Let's get Pumpkin Pie, and let's get Real Red. And then I'm going to have to decide if I think the Daffodil Delight is too light for what I'm doing. So what I want is, yeah, I think I've already changed my mind. Okay, I'm going to go for Pumpkin Pie. Oh, my Pumpkin Pie ink pad does not look healthy at all. And that does happen sometimes, and at another time in another video, I'll tell you how to fix that, but I think it's going to be okay for now. This was probably one of my first ink pads, because I think this was the set of colors that I got as my joining special. Alright, so let's hope that works. So I'm going to stamp this heart twice. In Pumpkin Pie, and then I think I'd better go ahead and cut those out so I can see how much I have left, because I don't want to cut myself short. Because this punch is actually kind of large, so I might have already cut myself short. We'll see. So again, punch fast. Give it a good fast squeeze. Okay, and I'm not going to have enough for a full punch, so hang on, I'm just going to have to take a card base and, use it. So that's all I wanted to do with the Pumpkin Pie. I have to leave myself a note to show you how to fix a pad that looks like that, because there is a way to fix it. People think they have to order a new one, and you don't necessarily have to do that. Okay, then Real Red. Daffodil Delight first. So Daffodil Delight, I'm going to, where, oh my, I realized what I just did that I should not have done. Okay, hang on. No no matter, we can fix it. Whatever it is, we can fix it. Daffodil Delight, I'm going to use this outline for. And it's got a heart at the top and the bottom. And I'm going to stamp that in Daffodil Delight to make kind of a frame. Very nice. Okay. Very happy with that. And then I'm going to use the real red for my sentiment, so the sentiment really pops. And my sentiment, is right in front of me. My sentiment says, sending you a big hug. I'm going to do my best to get this straight. Now, this is the first time tonight, I think, that you've seen me using a red, a dark reddish color with the photopolymer stamp. So I'm going to tell you that red inks, or even purple that has red in it, or different colors that have red in them, will stain your stamps. Now, if I grab my chamois and clean this right away, which we don't always do, we don't typically clean up till we're almost done, but if I grab my chamois and clean this right away, it will minimize the staining, but it will still stain. There's nothing wrong with it. You can still see through it, but see, now it's just pinkish. Whereas if I left this until like 8 o'clock tonight, you know, like after I had my dinner, if I decided to come back in and clean my stamps, then they would be stained pretty dark. So you do want to clean them right away if you're using any of the deeper colors that have red in it. It does not seem to happen with blues, even dark blues. It only seems to happen with anything that has any red ink in it. Now I'm noticing that there's a tiny red splotch there, which tells me, yep, that I got my finger into something red. Luckily, it's on a piece that I don't care about, but I'm going to chamois my finger, because that's how bad things happen and how we get upset with ourselves. And I'm going to close this red ink up before something else bad happens. Okay. And now I'm going to stamp this. I like that with the yellow. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I do. I like it. Now this frame seemed to be much easier to cut than the one before. It could be my imagination. And then I realized what I did was that I accidentally used the white piece that was going to be my liner, and I accidentally used it as to cut out my images, to stamp my images, or punch my images. That's what I'm trying to say, punch. To punch my images. Okay, so we've got these now, and we've got these, all right? And depending on, hang on, depending on what size this paper is, I should be able to save this, because we want our liner piece, not always, but the typical liner piece is 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to cut this down to 4. You can certainly do other sizes, by the way. You can do 3 3/4 by 5, or really just anything you like. So that's 4, and then in this direction it should be 5 1/4, or at least that's what I want it to be for my inside layer. Okay? Then as long as I've got the cutter out, I'm going to take this piece here, because my intention for this piece was just to have a little, maybe 1/2 inch strip to put on the inside just for a little decoration. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off right now so that I've got that done. And then I can put this away, and we can build the card. So building this card is a little tricky. I know I said this was easier, but it's a little tricky, because we now have to take all of these pieces here and place them on the card. Now this one that I didn't have enough space for, I'm going to have to place carefully. So I want this one to go someplace where it's going to end up tucked under something. And a lot of the things in here will end up tucked. I don't know if it really matters what direction these go in, because everything seems to go sort of every which way. So that's my theory that I'm going to stick with, that it doesn't matter what direction it's in. I think I'm going to try to get all of the points facing up. I don't know how important that is either, but that's what I'm going to try to do. And we're going to kind of alternate, so DSP and stamped image, and then DSP and stamped image, and then DSP and stamped image. And I think you're probably saying, well, honey, that's not all going to fit on there. Well, you are exactly correct. It's not, because we're going to tuck things under, okay? So now one way you can do this, it doesn't work all the time, is to try to put it together a little bit before you actually put it on, or just put glue in the middle and then do your tucking and then add more glue afterwards. Like either way, it kind of doesn't matter. So probably the easiest way I think to do it and make sure that it's right would be to just put some glue in the middle of this. And that's what I'm going to do. And these things can be a little bit wonky. They don't have to be straight. I do want to get it pretty close to the top. Okay, so I've got glue in the middle so I can pick up my edges, all right, if I need to. In this case, I think I'm actually not going to need to, so because I'm going to do it the other way around. So I'm going to put some glue down there so that that stays down, and then get some glue under here so that that stays down, because we don't want it coming up. And now this one I'm going to put on top, but I'm going to put another one under it, partially under it. So I'm going to leave the bottom part a little bit open so that I can do some tucking. So we're going to put that one this way, and I'm just going to angle this one in the opposite direction. Now I'm coming to that piece, that's where I want this piece. This is the piece that was missing the bottom half. So the top part looks right, or in this case actually it wasn't the bottom, it was the side, right? So let's see, I want to be able to cover that up. So this can get tucked under here. And when you have no fingernails, it's hard to do this stuff. That could get tucked under there. And then this one will have to go over that, so it's covering up that part where I didn't have enough room. And you see, if I didn't punch quickly enough, that's what happens there. I just get like a little rough edge. It's no big deal, because the snips are wonderful for that. All right, so we're going to tuck that one under, and nothing else is going to go under here, so this one can go down all the way. And again, I would be having this conversation with myself if you weren't here, because, you know, I want to get it right. So once I get that tucked under, I can add some more glue to that afterwards, and I'll show you a little trick for doing that. And I do apologize, because this is taking longer than I intended it to take. Imagine that. All right, now this one can get glue all over it. However, I did want this one to go under here, and that one I think I ended up putting glue all over because I didn't think I was going to need it. So I'm going to flip my take your pick tool around to the spatula end, which I also call the mistake corrector. Oh no, I did leave it open. Okay. And if I had glued it, I would just use that. Actually, I'm still going to use it to help me pick that up. Okay, and I'm going to get some of that under that, being very careful to cover up as much of that piece that didn't get cut the way it was supposed to, because I didn't have enough. So now no one will ever know that there's only like a piece of a piece there. Again, if that makes any sense. Now this one, I want this one to go under that one. I can put glue all over this one, and then I'm going to lift that up a little bit so that this one can go under there. I may have to lift it up more than just a little bit. Yep, I might. Okay, but that works, so we're fine, because I really want to get enough of that under there that none of that is hanging off the edge, although it would not be a disaster if some of it were hanging off the edge and I had to trim it, because that happens too. Okay, so there we go. Now we're actually done with the glue. Oh no, we're not totally done with the glue, but we're almost done with the glue. Oh my gosh, do you see what I did? Does anybody know what I did? Because you all should be screaming at me. These pieces here were supposed to get put on there, not on the white, on there. So off camera, because I'm not going to keep you here, I'm going to redo that. So what you have to picture now is that these are on green, all right? And I will do it again off camera, and I will show it to you. And then this one is going to get popped up on here. This was to go on the bottom of this. See, as soon as I realized I was running over, I started rushing, and when I rush, I stopped thinking. But anyway, what I wanted to show you, so just pretend that that's on green. This is the one that I made earlier today. Totally different. So this one sort of mimics the one in the catalog, but not totally. Totally different, much more toned down, maybe more for a masculine card, whereas this is just kind of fun and colorful. Two totally different things. Alrighty, well, I apologize for the mistake, but it wouldn't be a Roberta video if you didn't see at least one mistake. I have absolutely no idea. Oh, wait, I do. I just see Barbara, because I can see on my camera who's watching, but I have to stand up to see my camera. So thank you, Barbara, for joining us tonight. And I know that, I think Amy might have been there earlier, and I know that Cheryl was there earlier. And I'm not sure who else was there earlier because I can't see a darn thing until once I publish it, I'll be able to see it. So I'm back. I should be doing videos every Wednesday from this point on. All right. So I usually, miss a couple while I'm traveling, but I'm not going anywhere until April. So I will be seeing you a week from tonight. And thank you ever so much for watching. And have a great weekend.